Hey there, chitheads around the world, and welcome back to another episode of BoardChitless. I'm Lecky, and this week I'm joined by
Dave,
Daz,
and Tristan.
And this week we've been playing Arkon and Mutant Chronicles: Siege of the Citadel. Yeah, but before we get into that lot, I just wanted to let you guys know that people have been reviewing the podcast on iTunes. They've listened, and these are actual people as well, not just shills like my mum or me that put reviews on iTunes just to get the ball rolling. So
thanks for that, Daz.
Yeah, well, just want
I
to say,
couldn't get on
don't know,
to register.
it's like there's an anonymous, bit of anonymous user handle on iTunes. So Barleycorn1875, whoever you are, thanks very much for your very kind review. Went in depth. It was talking about the quality of the editing and the audio quality.
Humorous too,
if anything.
Yeah, and also the banter. So thanks very much for that. Just if anyone's out there that wants to help us grow the podcast, please leave a review on iTunes. The 5 stars and the kind words really do go a little bit towards helping other people find us, to the point that we've actually moved up a rank. We're on a podcast rank, if you can imagine that. We're the 81st most popular podcast for board games and hobbies, or games and hobbies, in, wait for it, Nepal.
That is amazing. Thank you to all the Nepalese listeners.
I'm going to, I'm thinking of putting in like some sort of marketing campaign, see if we can move up there. Like, I'm wondering how much billboards cost in Nepal. So
Who's number one in Nepal?
I don't know. You can't see. You can only see your own rank, but maybe there's a way of finding out. It'll be interesting. It'll probably be like the Dice Tower or someone, or Shut Up and Sit Down. And I'm wondering how many more listeners we'll need to build up. I don't know what the population of Nepal is. If you are the listener that listens to us from Nepal, thank you very much. Please
Could
continue.
be more than one.
Game podcasts going on at least.
Well, one of them, it might just be other games and hobbies. So one of them might be like,
Football.
knitting podcasts or something. Anyway, we've discussed this, so we're probably too long and bored everybody. But yeah, just a quick reminder, get on iTunes and just give us a little review if you can. Thank you very much. So the first game we played tonight was Arkon, a card game for 2 to 4 players. It's a sort of poker-style strategy game. It's all completely card-based. Everyone's got a little hand of cards with some numbers on it. And it's very fantasy themed, and you all start to bid for cards. You're trying to put on a little tableau in front of you. You either need one of each type of cards, which is different suits of cards. So you need an elf, a human, an orc, or a dwarf, or you want to try and get all of the 4 cards that actually exist in the deck, which I tried to do and failed spectacularly. It's quite a fun, quick game. What did you guys think of it?
Yeah, it was good. It's pitched as a 30-minute game, but it was like that could have gone on forever, really, couldn't it?
We dragged it on.
Yeah.
Well, we played, Daz, me and Sam last week, and we got through 3 games in about 40 minutes. The 4 of us tonight went over 40 minutes, I think, in one game.
So what you're saying is
So I think you two are the common denominators here, adding length.
I think you're right there. The serious...
No comment.
The serious gamers turned up and took the game seriously and played it very well.
Yeah, it should have been love letter speed, because it's basically love letter with the illusion of agency. But man, you guys were strategizing.
I'd say it's more complicated than love letter. I mean, there's like 4 times as many cards to begin with, and you're not just guessing what other people have. You're trying to swap them around and stuff. There is a lot of take that cards, which are lovely, especially when you steal someone's take that card and then use it against them, like I did with Daz. It was lovely.
A lot as well, so thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it does have a bit of a like a sort of like beat up whoever's winning sort of mechanic, where like one person will tend to get mobbed. Like I built up 3 orcs, had no idea where the final orc was, and proceeded to watch it get dismantled. And I managed to dismantle that sort of hand from Daz as well. So the orcs just kind of like floated around the table for a little while.
Yeah, so the more dudes you've got in play, the more clans you've got in play, the more influence you have.
Yeah.
So at that point, you had like 3 orcs and a bunch of other dudes as well. So you had like 6 influence. So you could bid any bid, you should have automatically won. But in this game, it's so back and forth. You can play a card like Shifting Allegiances, and you just take all the cards off the player next to you, or like whoever. Yeah. So there's no, you're building an empire on like shifting sands, basically, because the second you think you get ahead, somebody will just snatch literally everything from you. And even if they don't, because you managed to play all your cards down to repel them, the person after them will. So you've got like, it's constantly shifting. And actually, Dave took the win tonight, and from a position of no power whatsoever. Dave, is that fair to say?
Yeah, it was like a one maybe like 2-turn build up. It wasn't planned. It might have looked planned. It wasn't.
It didn't look planned.
No, but I think that's how you do it.
Looked scrappy.
I think that's how you win the game because Lecky he was quite strong quite early on, and he had the clear lead, and we just battered him, didn't we?
Yeah, you can sort of spend like a lot of deck abilities. You can spend all your cards in one turn and like get in a really good position. But then it takes like 2 or 3 turns to get like the good cards back in your hand, which actually protect you. So by the time you've done that, someone else has already stolen all the cards that you stole off someone else anyway. And I think Dave probably played it quite well in terms of he passed a few times when everyone was bidding cards to just try and play people down. So the influence that you're using will also stop you from using those cards to like steal a card off someone's hand or steal a card from their tableau. And because he did that, he had this like super mega hand. So it was like, right, I'm going to steal a card and put it into play. Then I'm going to like break up that from stop you from like winning. And then all of a sudden try and play my final card down. And he got into a really strong position just by like maybe holding on to some of those big power cards.
That's what I was trying to do at one point just before you did that, but I got the rules wrong for one of the cards. So it kind of fell flat on its face because I thought I was going to take a load from you, but then you had to take some cards from you, but then I had to return some back to you as well. So I think every turn my strategy was changing. It was
Very fluid.
adapting pretty quickly, but that's kind of the fun in it as well. It's hard to predict what's going to happen next, and something that you think is going to be over in 30 seconds went on for however long it did tonight.
It is a game of timing. Like there's a balance because if you play, like there's several cards that is just going to steal somebody's clans or do something like really bad or completely switch clans. If you play it though, you've then got no defense against somebody playing that against you. If you hold on to the card and somebody plays that against you, you can cancel it. So there's like a really interesting balance.
Yeah, it's just that point you break out and you go for a big bold move, and then you know it can either be successful like with you or not so much like with me, but getting too strong as well, getting too many clans out there, you're just attracting trouble, really, aren't you?
Putting your head above the parapets.
That's it.
Yeah, that could be one of the reasons why our game went on for a bit longer than it probably should have, or maybe is the game's designed to do, is because there wasn't any sort of balance in the early game. Like I think Tristan got a few cards out quite early. We dismantled them, and then I managed to get a couple of orcs together, and then they got dismantled. And every time someone seemed to, there was always a clear leader, and we'd all just gang up on them. Whereas if we'd all got to 2 cards around at the same time, so we might have just got that sort of dodgy quick victory. But it was still fun, even though it's a very swingy game. Leader going back and forth. There was still a lot to play for. It never felt like you were out of the game.
Yeah, I think a short game like this needs to be swingy like that to give everyone a chance. It would suck if somebody was just like, oh, they're clearly going to win, and you just waited for it to happen. So this game very much leaves all of you in it to the end, really. Mm-hmm. And it sort of has a natural progression where you do get to a point where everyone has a clan or two in play, and at that point, it's every man for himself kind of thing.
It's like Spartacus, where you set yourself up for that one
big move.
Thrust.
Yeah,
so to speak.
I should point out as well, the artwork is fantastic. I think there's about maybe 10 pieces at most, but that's what drew me to the game in the first place. And I didn't read anything about it. I just followed it and thought, ooh, fantasy adventure game with amazing artwork, and it was super cheap. I think it was less than 20 quid. And you get a deck of cards. I didn't realise how it was going to play out. It turns out it's a strategy bidding card game. So it's not so much like fantasy adventure, although all the characters are clearly, like you say, orc, elf, dwarf, and then it's like thievery and backstabbing and stuff like that. So the presentation is really lovely, and it's a tiny little, just a regular deck box. But yeah, the theme, like with Love Letter, could be anything, could easily be switched out to any other sort of game, but it's got that nice fantasy touch. Looks a bit like Hero Realms, kind of.
Yeah, it looks kind of part of a bigger world. Is it a spin-off from a larger series, or is it just like a complete one-off game contained within itself?
I think it's self-contained. It's very Warcraft, isn't it? That's what we said with the shoulder pads and orcs.
Those orcs are just straight out of World of Warcraft.
Yeah, it's really evocative of like the old Warcraft real-time strategy games as well. Yeah. Like we're a bit like sort of cel-shaded, not cutesy comic, but like very much like comic inspired. Very nice artwork. And like the cards are like a decent stock as well, you know. They didn't feel like they were going to fall apart.
They can have a lot of grabbing and tearing and tussling over them, so I guess they need to be with this.
Being screwed up and thrown at people that have just stolen cards off you, that sort of stuff.
We weren't far off that,
Yeah. Lots of fun to be had. Was this a board game? What's the sort of price point on this one? Kickstarter.
For this, I think it might have gone to retail, but like I said, I think less than 20 quid for the whole package.
It's money well spent, I think. You know, you get quite a bit of replayability. It's a good fun game.
Definitely fill a game, start the evening, or play on your lunch break, or probably even take down a pub. There's no tokens or anything like that. It's literally just a hand of cards each and a deck. So yeah, nice compact little strategy game.
Well, there you go. Nice cheap strategy game, which looks lovely and plays really well. Arkon. Go check it out, guys. The next game we played was Mutant Chronicles: Siege of the Citadel. It's a techno-fantasy board game for how many players is it?
1 to 5. So they've added like an AI deck thing in. It's like a second edition. The original was from the 90s, but they've added in like an AI thing, which I have had a go of. I didn't think much of it really. I think the game's a bit simple to sit and want to play on my own. Like if I'm going to sit on my own and play something, I want it to be something complex. But you know, could have fun with it, I guess.
I had good fun with it. We played sort of 2 missions, didn't we? And each time the baddie players are like it's the dark. What's the name of the bad faction? Is it like the Dark
Legion?
Yeah, the Dark Legion. So it's like a really sort of dystopian future where corporations have taken over Earth and like bled it dry and had to leave, and they've colonized the rest of the solar system. But they've gone a bit too far and they've uncovered something on Pluto, I think it is. Or maybe past Pluto, they found like a 10th planet, and it's unleashed this Dark Legion into the solar system, and it's destroyed all the technology. It moves through electronics, so electronics can't really be used, although there are exceptions, and it just ends up with a massive invasion, and all the corporations are fighting among themselves, but they band together and sort of create like a sort of NATO kind of force where they send special forces in to fight against the Dark Legion. We can edit that out. That's just my chest. God, give me a minute.
It's all right. But it's a bit of a twisted dark theme, isn't it? Reminding me a lot of like Dead Space or like sort of like weird sort of like body transmutations and stuff and necromorphs. So that sort of fits. And the gameplay is quite simplistic and straightforward, but it did have quite a lot of variety in terms of like equipment, different player abilities. And again, with like one person electing to be or kind of like being drafted into the Dark Legion, it kind of like sorted out that sort of problem that I get with one versus many games where it almost feels like it's everyone ganging up against one person. This one, it felt a bit fairer, like there was still a lot of agency. And when you kind of like go around defeating Dark Legion enemies as a corporation faction, then you get these promotion points. And when you're playing as a Dark Legion, you still get those promotion points for like killing off player characters or just applying damage, which like I thought brings you back into the game really, not just being a caretaker for the board game.
But those promotion points go directly to the corporation that you're normally playing as a Dark Legion, because you swap between each other every game. So normally in a one versus many game, and we've done this loads of times, you get a bit fed up. Something like Imperial Assault, if you're the Imperial Stormtroopers or whatever, you're them for the whole campaign. Whereas in this, it mixes it up a bit. It lets you sort of play the Dark Legion, and then you go back to being the corporation and increasing. And the campaign system's not. It's simple. It's real. It's not like extra steps between missions or anything, but there's a sense of progression there, I think. And you continue that when you're the Dark Legion, so you're not missing out when you play the Dark Legion side.
Yeah, I really felt like that was the case. How did you guys get on just playing? You were playing the corporation twice. And did you have fun with it?
Yeah. I didn't get to play as the Legion, sadly, and I got a bit jealous, actually, especially looking at your go, Lackey, the sort of amount of mutant terrors that you brought in. So I kind of found myself thinking, if it was me next go, what would I be doing? So I guess that was a good sort of signifier of that I was enjoying the game
Yeah.
generally. I didn't have an awful lot of luck with the I got sort of I wouldn't say left behind because we didn't really. It felt kind of sort of half cooperative in a way. Quite light cooperative, but you are out to kind of get kills to get your promotion points as well. So you kind of split between sort of the objective, helping out the other guys, and then obviously your promotion points, which is the big thing. I don't. What happens at the end of the 5? Were we to play 5?
So
missions.
You're supposed to play like a campaign. I think there's in the base set there's 2 5-mission campaigns, or I think you can play them as one long 10-mission campaign. And I think the winner's just won the most promotion points.
Right.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I'm thinking that's what it is. I've not read anything special. You don't get like a cup or anything.
But you have got your overall aim of getting those promotion points and sort of so
I think
you've got to be selfish.
Yeah,
I think,
so that's like the measure of your success. And you've got like, because the corporations, they're working together to fight against this sort of greater threat, but they still hate each other. They still, not hate maybe, but they're working against each other. They still want to be the ones that get all the glory and all the standing. So you get like secret missions that you are trying to accomplish at the same time as the actual goal of the quest or the mission or whatever it is. And that adds like an extra element because nobody else knows what you're trying to actually achieve. We've only seen 3 of them or maybe 6 of them, but put some back. So I don't know what the variety is there, but it's a pretty hefty deck. It's like 40, 50 cards in it.
Yeah. From what I saw of like the missions coming out, when so there wasn't any secret missions in the first scenario that we played, but the second scenario, there's quite a lot of difference. So I think Daz was just trying to kill a big monster, a big sort of like alien monster. Tristan, what were you up to?
Yeah, I had a mission that couldn't be achieved in the scenario we played, so it was.
Oh, okay.
I had to kill a big monster, but it never came in. So, but yeah, no, but I still enjoyed it though. It's a dudes on the map adventure game, and I'm kind of a sucker for those anyway. And it's really simple. It's like it's basically a Space Crusade. It's like a reissue of Space Crusade. But I quite like that because it meant that we were up and running straight away. It was dead accessible. You as the corporations, we only had 2 guys, and they could only do 2 things a turn, like move, fight, or move, fight, and you just roll a bunch of dice. The dice start off rubbish; they don't get much better. You've got like a 1 in 3 chance of getting a hit, but then whoever's being hit usually has a chance to cancel that hit. But actually, initially I thought that's going to be really frustrating because nobody will be doing anything. It will just be just blocking up corridors and nothing happening. But actually the way it played out was we were moving through the tiles fairly quickly, both sides. And I think you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, Dave and Lecky, who played as the baddies, but as you're playing as the baddies, even if you lose, it's not that big of a deal because you're scoring those hits. Each wound that you inflict on a corporate dude gets you an experience point, a promotion point. So you're constantly achieving, which is actually quite a clever thing for something like this, where it's definitely semi-co-op. Even all the heroes, there was no real tactical discussions between us. Was there like
you guys all left me behind?
Yeah, and me and Lecky left Daz behind to die, and it was basically every man for himself. So there was no, you cover these guys here and I'll do this. It was literally just get in, get your points and get out kind of thing. And for the theme of what it is as a semi-co-op game, I think that worked quite nicely. And you didn't really you didn't really care what anybody else was doing as long as you could do your own thing.
I think it's that element that makes it fun, which is why solo or pure co-op, it's not quite there. Like there's better games now,
and it is. I think it's too light for something like that.
Yeah,
you mentioned Imperial Assault before. That really requires you working together, and you heal me, and you tank that, and you've got.
But that's got like an app, so you can play that solo and have like surprises and stuff. There's not going to be any surprises in the solo play on this.
There's no deep strategy in it. You're either moving or fighting.
Although having said that, there is a absolute ton of expansions coming because this is the Kickstarter copy.
Right.
I went all in on it, so there might be stuff coming that is more suited to solo or co-op play. There's loads of stuff that was in that Kickstarter. It was just like I don't know what I'm going to do with all the models. one of them.
Yeah.
So
We also mentioned Zombicide. I think it's on that level in terms of complexity, but slightly more polished in that Zombicide has that tipping point where it just you can't fit the plastic on the board. And this kind of got that way when Lecky was the bad guy. You had so many pieces, you were sort of almost getting exhausted moving them.
I wasn't the most efficient Dark Legion. They were more of a mindless rabble.
But you were still racking up the points, and you managed to kill
a character.
That was very much it had that. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It had the bash the wizard thing. So whoever's lagging behind or whoever's falling behind, the Dark Legion player, it just behooves them to just pounce on them and try and kill them because you get points for wounding people, but you get bonus points for killing a guy. So that happened to you twice, though.
Seeger he didn't have a great outing. He wasn't all he was cracked up to be, was he?
Yeah,
the biggest.
He's like a major
one.
hero from the lore because I really
not when I'm in charge.
That's one of the main reasons that I got this was the IP. I got all the role playing books from Modiphius. I played the second edition back in like the 90s. That was like in our group we all had like a role playing game that we got and collected and would run from time to time, and that was the one that I had. So I got all the latest stuff, and I love the IP. And that guy that Daz had, Max Steiner,
so we've ruined it.
He's like a massive hero, and he died twice. He died in both games, and he was the only one to do so.
Valiantly, though.
Yeah, he got
the second one.
He just got chewed up, didn't he? It was interesting that like the bigger baddies from the Dark Legion, you would have to go completely co-op and have like 3 players attacking them at the same time to have any sort of a chance against them. You still need like 3 dice or something when you've got a pool of like 2 plus 1 maybe. Yeah.
I was kind of stuck on that though because one of my secret objectives was to kill one of the really big boys that ended up killing me.
It was like the second hardest monster in the game.
Yeah, so I was caught in 2 minds. Do I run away or do I try? So I went for it, but that ultimately was my downfall with that one.
But then he started stalking you and he was just too powerful, really.
But that was another thing with the cooperative element because you the secret objective, you have to sort of keep it secret. But you guys, I could tell you were kind of looking at me funny when I was suggesting to maybe have a go. But it was because of that.
From turn 1, you know that no one's going to gang up with anybody else. Like
only one person gets the promotion points. So whoever gets the kill gets the promotion points. So you can be co-op, but only one person's going to get the benefit.
That could have still worked for Daz though. If the guy had gone down, even if Daz hadn't gone to kill him below, he might have still got his secret mission points for it maybe. And what I found interesting was the co-op was so light that at one point Daz was having to ask Dave if his character could move through the same space.
Let him now, and Tristan as well, because if I hadn't have let them, basically you can move through your own characters, and you can also move through other corporations' characters, but they have the right to say no. And we're right at the end, and the mission was to escape basically from this place, and we're all in the end tile. And I let them through, and they both escaped. But then my guys
got surrounded.
Yeah, so the way the turns work is every round you all get a chance. The turn order changes every round. So in this particular instance, it just so happened in the last round that Lecky went first, and I was the only people left on the board because I'd let everybody else through. So I was the only targets, and he just surrounded me, and we didn't get out.
I don't think we ever said thank you for that either.
I don't think you did. No.
I think we made up for it by giving him a load of points. That was definitely a janky ending. Is me and Daz escaped and completed the scenario objectives, but Dave got more points for not escaping and lost no points.
Oh well, no, I got more points for completing my secondary objective. So I completed my secondary objective, but gained. You don't lose any points. I don't think you lose points for not completing your secondary objective, but I don't think we ever checked to see if you can actually go down ranks because you level up as you get promotion points, and I'm not sure if you can go back down ranks.
So the only negative from you not escaping, which was the primary goal of the mission, was you gave a couple of points to Lecky.
Yeah. So everybody who doesn't escape, Lecky gets points. Like the Dark Legion gets points. So, but that is a negative for all of us. So it was probably in your best interest to help me escape.
It was only if I'd stopped the whole team from getting off the map as well, so I'd have to kill both of you, which I did with. He sort of timed out.
He didn't kill me. Yeah, we got to the end. Those 2 Doom Troopers would make it to the next mission, so they've obviously killed everything that was there. That massive mob.
No, that's bollocks. They got eaten alive. What happens is 2 new clones come in. That's what happens. Of course it is. It's a sci-fi fantasy. Of course, there's got to be clones.
They call it diesel punk. Never heard that before, but that's that's the genre that they've gone with.
Moved on.
Makes
Steam.
sense.
Yeah.
Petrol.
Everything's grimy. There's what I did like is the artwork on the cars, and someone had a medicine injector, and it just looked like this really horrible, greasy piece of machinery. And it's like, imagine injecting yourself with that.
The artwork has always been phenomenal for this IP. For like going through, there was a war game as well, released for it called Warzone. I think it was in the late 90s maybe. And there was a card game as well called Doom Trooper, and the art's been shared. The assets are all in this, but there's newer stuff as well. And the artwork's always been like bob on.
Yeah, from a sort of an outsider looking in at the IP, it's fairly generic, sort of formulaic. I can see where
Massive shoulder pads.
Yeah, massive shoulder pads, sort of like semi-mechanoid.
Space
Big
Marines.
brutes, exactly. Yeah, it feels a bit Warhammery, but I can see why it's built on its own IP. It's got its own universe, and it looks really cool. What I liked about it from the Dark Legion point of view, playing the second campaign, is the first game was very much sort of you go onto the map, you try and literally like photograph some plans, which I don't know why the alien race has just like a drafting table with some maps on it, but there you go. But the second one, the escape one, it felt very much like a tower defense game. From my point of view. So you guys were trying to like run through this little maze I'd created of aliens, and then I was just trying to get as many different resources in as many different places as possible to try and stop you. And they just all log jammed in one corridor. But it was fun sort of organising that log jam.
Log jamming.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of mechanics the other scenarios invoke without really having to try too hard. Although it's a very simple game in terms of mechanics, I think there's a lot that can be done with them.
Yeah, there's depth in like because there's like you have a hand of cards as well, like the Doom Trooper cards, so you get to play cards every turn. The equipment cards, they didn't really mix it up too much where we were, but I've had a look ahead and looked at some of the later equipment cards, and they do start doing like quite interesting things. But I don't know how. To me, if you're gonna, I'd rather have it accessible from the beginning. I mean, there's nothing stopping you going in with playing a single mission with like a rank 12 team and Dark Legion, but I think the original. I never played the original, but I played other games in the system. Played Fury the Klansman, I think it was called, and Blood Berets, which are set in the same thing, and it was by the same company, and they had very very similar sort of rules. But I don't think they had the campaign, and I think that's what was missing from them. I would rather play a campaign game or something like this.
Yeah, from my point of view, the base game doesn't feel complete at all. Like you mentioned, there's Kickstarter expansion material coming out, and I'd imagine if you pick this up at retail, it might be a bit disappointing because you'll see the expansion boxes on the shelf, and you know you need a couple of those to really like bulk it out, get some extra enemies in there. Maybe different mechanics.
So this base
build it up.
Is more or less like they've put some extra things in, like they put the technician class in, or the technical class, or whatever it's called. They put some extra bits in, but it's pretty much the same as the 90s version. A lot of some of the stuff, I've only seen some of the stuff from the Kickstarter, but it does look a lot more to add complexity. Like so there's positional stuff on the board, like monsters doing things depending on position, stuff like that. Even things like that can add all sorts of like puzzle play, but like you say, I don't think it feels necessarily complete. It feels like a 1990s game.
Yeah, it does. It does feel, especially playing some like older games last week, like Game of Thrones. It feels very much of that ilk. There's nothing sort of like revolutionary in the box, except it's fun to play. And at the end of the day, that's really probably what matters most.
It was revolutionary at the time, though. Like
when they invented cardboard. Yeah. No, yeah, I know what you mean. It could be like it's a sort of genre, like in terms of like it's a little bit dungeon crawly, bit like mob boss battle-y. But there's not a whole lot of room for innovation there, I suppose, unless you start really like messing about with what you're doing. The dice, if we can talk about the dice for a second, what a bunch of plastic buggers.
They are the exact same dice that I remember from the 90s as well. They've not updated them.
Yeah.
They're awful looking. Do you not think?
They look rubbish and they're designed to roll terribly.
Yeah, we need a dice tower. We need just new dice. I don't know why they couldn't have put new dice.
There's a lot of blank sides, and blank sides come up an awful lot. especially when you use up some like special ability cards, and it's like, great, I get to roll like 4 dice and a red dice, which is meant to be the good dice, and they all end up blank, and you're like, okay, fine.
I think the biggest problem is we're spoilt for choice with miniatures dungeon crawlers, but I think this sits in a nice area of that semi-competitive, semi-cooperative versus an overlord player, which isn't normally my favourite. I think we've exhausted ourselves on stuff like Descent and stuff in the past, but I think this does it at such a pace and so easily and accessibly that it's more interesting and would possibly get more play than those longer games where you're really just slogging it out. But if I was going to get a dudes on a map game out, I don't know if this would compete with like Fireteam Zero or one of those ones that has more flexibility and more tactics from turn to turn.
It might not compete with them necessarily, but at the same time, it's a lot simpler than a lot of those games are now.
We busted out that first game.
We played 2 missions tonight and a game of Arkon.
That's it. I think that first game, after rules explanation, because that did take a chunk of time, I think that was less time than the Arkon game.
Yeah.
To say
It was like 90 minutes, wasn't it, for each mission?
That semi-cooperative thing does one major thing that I think is a plus, is it just gets rid of alpha playing. Like,
Yes.
And I think that's huge, because then a lot of the times, even like best of intentions, sometimes we just sort of run away with it and go, oh, maybe we should do this. But in this, you don't really do that because
it's not best for you.
You want the
It's
points.
not best for the other guy, yeah.
There's a couple of conversations about like what should players do, perhaps, like what's the best way of going about this, but everyone's left to their own devices a few times. Dave helped me out when I was playing as the Dark Legions. He's just pointing out sort of a couple of things that I could do to sort of like optimize movements a bit, which is good. It wouldn't go so far as to say you were playing it for me. He was just, it was nice. I used the tactics that you told me to use against Tristan, against you.
And then I lost.
That's good though. It shows what a selfless sort of player that you are. I think this is it's a good game to play. It's fun. It's not overly complicated. So if you like dudes on a map game, but you don't particularly want to spend a whole night learning it with friends, maybe it's a good sort of introductory to the genre. It'll be interesting to see if all the expansions do make it massively complicated and negate that, or whether they kind of run along the same theme as these.
I do want to just touch briefly on what did you think of the miniatures, because I wasn't blown away by them.
Standard Kickstarter fare, like someone sculpted them kind of all right. They weren't completely poor.
At least you don't have to assemble them.
Well, yeah, it's not the worst that I've seen, but like the sculpts that were on the Kickstarter, they're just not as detailed as I think was promised. Maybe I'm not one of them people who's going to kick up a fuss and be like bothered, but I can see some people really sort of being annoyed with the sort of quality of the sculpts, and it's not. Like Modiphius is quite good at sculpts. Like they did the Fallout game and they're good miniatures. But these are like nowhere near that quality. And I'd just be aware of that going in, because they are like board game miniatures, aren't they? Yeah. They're not hobby miniatures.
Yeah, there's something that you'd be used to seeing in like Castle Ravenloft, in like a D&D sort of port to board game. Not something that you'd buy especially for like Warhammer or whatever. Like if you're buying this game because you like the look of the game, but mainly because you're buying cheap miniatures because you got a good deal on Kickstarter, it'll be interesting to see what you think of them, really.
It was a miniatures Kickstarter. Like it was just every stretch goal was adding miniatures.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's, dudes on a map game that's pretty straightforward, easy to learn, but still produces fun. It's not co-op, let's face it. There's a bit of co-op, but it's mainly about getting your guys to do what your guys need to do quicker than the other guys need to do it.
Whilst they're saying, why are you doing that? Or what the hell are you doing?
Daz, move away from that tile. You're about to be eaten. If you're like bullying one person around the table, then
he did get brutalized by both of us.
It did.
It's just a shame I didn't get that Dark Legion going myself, because I tell you what, you'd have been all right, Tristan.
There'd be some revenge plays. Oh, well, what better time to announce my retirement from Mutant Chronicles, Siege of the Citadel. Undefeated.
Just been promoted.
So just a quick reminder that Shadows of Kilforth will be coming to a Kickstarter near the internet in March, so keep an eye out for that. There'll be more information coming out on the internet waves. Would the internet create waves like the radio does?
This will create waves.
More of bits and bytes and nibbles. But yeah, just basically head to the Whole or Nothing Productions website, sign up for a newsletter, go to Board Game Geek, keep an eye out for updates on there, and you'll get told where to go and what to do and when to spend it. So we'll see you next week with more games. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.